All right, everybody. Check microphone 1 2 1 2. Hey, everybody, this is Blaine Band, the Happy Husband, and I thank you for joining me tonight. Today, we are going to talk about the top 5 things that ruin marriages. I call them the enemies of marriages, and this is the top 5 complaints that wives have, and um, the wives have that they complain that the husbands are not doing. But there's also remember that it can doing these things has nothing to do with gender. But women complain more, and I don't even know if really a complaint if there's a need, but they talk about these things more than other things, and they are suffering. And so tonight is going to be enlightenment because your marriage might be in this position. And so tonight we're going to talk about marriage. And so what we want to do is head the enemy off at the pass because marriage is a sacred thing. And I believe that you think so also, that marriage is a sacred thing. And so one of the things that we have to look at and see that marriage is instituted by God. Amen. And so that's very important to know that. And because marriage is instituted by God, there are certain precepts and statutes that if you do these things, that your marriage will be a blessed affair. And so today, because I join a lot of marriage clubs like on the internet, and one of the things that a guy wrote today was that when his wife and him was arguing, she threw furniture. And then he said, laugh out loud. But that's not no laughing matter, right? Because something is going on in that marriage that this woman believes that if she turns to violence, that she would get his attention. And that's real important. And so we're going to talk about these 5 areas, and I hope you get a pencil and a pen and write them down. One of the things I always emphasize, right, as a happy husband, of having pre-marital counseling. It's imperative that you have that because there are some live wires, some landmines that naturally people do not want to touch. But later on in a marriage, it comes back and bites you. And so the happy husband offer premarital counseling. You could DM me, and we're going to talk about. We got a 4-week section, a 6-week section, and an 8-week section. And you do not repeat. If you don't choose me, listen to what I'm saying. You do not want to get married without having premarital counseling. It will save you heartache, and it will save you pain in the end. Amen. And so you're going to want to do that because it's cheap insurance. And so, but what if you find yourself already married? What can you do? I still highly regard, to take premarital counseling, even though you're already married. Me and my wife took premarital counseling through her Catholic church, and it was like, okay, we got married by the Justice of Peace. We had a big marriage, and then we got involved in the church in Maryland, and they had a premarital counseling, and we went through the course. And I can tell you today that we still using the principles that we learned 36 years ago. And so I don't know where your marriage is at right now. I don't know if it's on the top of the mountain or in the shadow of the valley of death, right? Premarital counseling helps. Again, why? Because it gets you to talk about issues that you don't want to talk about. All right, let's just dive right into the list, right? We got a limited amount of time, because I know you're busy out there. So let's talk about, I call the lack nation. And so there's 5 things that wives, when they go to marriage counseling and therapy, these are the 5 things they bring up all the time. And then we're going to go through each and every one of them. Not only tell you what they are, See, but tonight it's not just telling you what they are, because you already know what they are, but it's what to do about it. What to do about these areas in your marriage that you're suffering in silence. And you wish that your husband would do something about it. Now, I know wives do it too. I already said that. That's my disclaimer. But as head of household, right, if he leads, we know that you're going to follow. If he leads godly way, you're going to follow. Amen. But if he leads godly way and you don't want to follow, then we know where the problem lies, right? But 9 times out of 10, 80% of the time, women file for divorce because of these top 5, right? So the first one we can go there is lack of attention. Oh, good. Lack of attention. The second one is lack of affection. The third one is lack of emotional energy. And then as we go on, I'm going to tell you what the last 2 are. And the last one is going to surprise you. All right. So let's talk about lack of attention. A lot of women, when they talk about wives, not just women, but wives, talk about husbands having a lack of attention, there's some things that they say that really make them feel shallow inside. One of them is you feel your husband is not paying attention to you when you speak. So if you identify with this, go ahead and put something down in the chat. And also, put down in the chat where you're coming from, which state you're in, right? Put it down there. You from DC, you from Belgium, you from the UK, you from North Carolina. Put it down in the chat so we can go ahead and give you a shout out. So one of the things women complain about is that wife said that when I speak, he's not listening to me. He's not paying attention. Now I can tell you something right now. Joyce has talked to me about this 100 times. So I'm not immune from this list. Sometimes I just be tired. Sometimes I just ain't listening. Sometimes I'm just a bad guy. I'm telling you, just ain't listening. Sometimes I be thinking about household things. But one thing Joyce has expressed to me that when I do that, she feels less. And it's up to me, as head of her household, to listen to her and hear her. And so I've been married for 36 years. And ladies, don't get disheartened when I'm about to tell you, I'm still working on it. 36 years in the game, and I'm still working on giving my wife full attention and listening to her when she speak. Women hate this, gentlemen. I'm telling you, they hate it. They hate it when you don't pay them attention. They hate it when they talk to you and then they ask you that question because your eyes are diverted somewhere. They hate it when you're on the phone and they try to talk to you about the day, especially women who stay at home with the children and they got things on the heart, man. And they've been talking to children all day long, and just talking all day long, it's not the same talking to children that you talk to adult, and it's not the same talking to your husband, right? So this is some of the things the women are saying. They're also saying that when you express your emotion, your husband invalidates your feeling. If you can agree with this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up or put down a true or amen. They say that when you give your opinion on something, especially if it's in like the man's realm, he might say, I want to buy a truck. And you might have said, well, does this truck have a warranty on this tranny? He looks at you like, what do you know about a tranny, right? And he forgot that you had 5 brothers. He forgot that your father was, that you overheard your father talk about. He forgot that you even could work on it, right? And so one of the wives complain is that in this thing called lack of attention, that when they speak about a matter, husbands are not listening and giving value to that, what they talking about. It's all go on the lack of attention. Another red flag when you're dealing in marriage and that husband you got to watch out for is when you interrupt your wives before they finish a sentence. You got to watch that. Because when you interrupt her, you don't let her full ideals come out of her mind. Now, what I found out in the past when I'm talking about Joyce is that Joyce might have to talk on a subject a couple of times. And when I first got married, I didn't understand that. But a lot of times Joyce be thinking about something and she go over and over and over in her mind. And then, and since she's a wise woman, she want to take what she's been thinking about and present it to me and say, this is what I've been thinking about. But when she first says it, right, it don't make no sense to me. And the reason why it don't make any sense to me, because she been going in her head and she having her own counsel. And so what I found out was after all these years of marriage with Joyce's and husband, if you listen here, this can really help your marriage. Is that you let your wife talk about that subject 2 or 3 times. Are you with me? You let her talk about that subject matter 2 or 3 times. Because the first time she might get it right, and then just listen, don't try to fix. The second time, it'll be a little more clear. By the time she says it the third time, she knows exactly what she wants to say, and she has her words down pat. All right? And so don't devalue your wife by cutting her off and by interrupting her. Let her finish her sentence. Let her share her ideals, and then after she finishes, pause. Just don't jump on in there. And remember, all this time you make eye contact, all this time you're touching her, all this time you're affirming her as she speaks to you. When let me see, your husband is constantly distracted, and it seems like everything else is more important to them. This was a major complaint that somebody wrote me about. They said that when I talk to my husband, he's distracted, but he can give time to everything else. Hi, my name is Blaine Bam, the happy husband, and today we're going over the top 5 things that wives hate that the husbands do. And if you're a husband out there, I'm telling you, write these things down, pick one, and begin to work on it. Don't tell your wife you're going to work on it. Just work on it. So right now we're talking about lack of attention, lack of caring for when she speaks and giving no value to her ideals. Also, when it comes on for lack of attention, you got to make sure that you not distracted. In other words, you got to get off your phone. Now that's for both sides. Are you with me? But your wife might start off talking about one thing, but there's really something else on her mind. Did this make sense to you guys? That she's talking about one thing, but then she's going to deviate down this path because she's just warming up. She's been with children all day. She's trying to get her thoughts together. And then finally, after 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, right, she finally gets into the flow where she wants to talk about. I found out that's worked with my Joyce. Now, as far as you, your wife might flow a little different, right? But it's up to you as head of household to really find out how your wife flow, how she thinks. It's up to you as head of household to do that. Because the way I approach my wife and the way that she approached me is different than your household. What's in common, right, is that we learn how they approach and that we learn to value our wives when they get it. So you can't be distracted, right? And when did you start this? Today, right? You start today. And so I'm sure that your wife has something to say to you today. Why? Because if you've been lack in this area, and that's what we're talking about, lack of attention, right? If you've been lack in this area, your wife has a lot to talk to you about. A lot to talk to you about. And so, gentlemen, what you do is you take your phone and you put it on airplane mode. I don't think you listen to me. You take your phone, put it in airplane mode. You take it off. Like when me and Joyce go out to eat at a restaurant, that's me and her time. But sometimes I'd be so intrigued. I'd be watching a podcast or something like that. And she doesn't say anything. And I see her and I realize I'm on the phone. I've been on the phone for 2-3 minutes. And me and her haven't even dialogue. And I take my phone and I put it down. I'm telling you this is what I do. I'm telling you. And I put it down and I slide over and then I say, this time with Joyce right now is the most important time there is on the planet. Now, I have to say that to myself because if I don't, I will get distracted by my emails. I'll get distracted by my texts. I get distracted by the fight that I'm watching on my phone. I get distracted by the scores. You know what I'm saying? I get distracted. And you definitely don't want to go out and eat with your wife and she has to bring you back to the conversation. That's not a good evening, right? So that's why women hate this because when you ask your wife to go out, and ladies, you can put this in the context if this is right or not, you expect me time, right? You expect attention. And if your love language is attention, now not everybody's love language is attention, but if your love language is attention and your husband not giving you attention, you feel lack. Matter of fact, I went to the Webster tonight and I look up the word lack because I call this the lack nation. These are the things that women said are lacking in their relationships, in the marriage. Now, I know I got some singles out there, and it might be true in the relationship that you in, but if you're a person who like attention, then this is hitting home. So I look up the word lack and just see if you identify with this. All right. So the word lack is being without. Now check out the second part. That's the A part of it. Lack means being without, not having enough. Now you see the source of the argument? Do you see what the word lack means? Lack means lack being without, not having enough of something. Now, if you take this down and you meditate on it, you understand why your husband argued with you, because his argument is, I do pay you attention. His argument say, I do listen to you. His argument is, right, gentlemen, as we say, baby, I listened to you. I heard you. And because you didn't understand the definition of lack, you might didn't have the words to articulate how you really felt in the depths of your heart, right? But it's not saying that you don't talk to me. It's not saying that you don't listen to me. And that's where the argument starts, because you come with a absolute finite thing, right? And then you start using words, and this is how we're going to do with, in my workshops, how to fight fair. And by the way, workshops are coming into your area, and one of the things we're going to teach on is how to fight fair. And a lot of people don't know how to do that, because when they see the mother fight, the father fight, they didn't show you no role models of how to have a civil discussion with an adult. That's why people get so easily bothered when you disagree with them on social media. They flick off, man. You might say the sky is blue. You said, no, the sky is not really blue. The sky is lavender because of the sunset. And because you disagree with them, they start typing in capital letters and stuff like that. And so when you talk to your husband, you got to be careful, right? And husband, we talk to wife, you got to be careful of saying statements that you can either get a yes or no out of. And a finite statement, granted hard statements, because that does no good. We have to learn how to fight. When it comes down to attention, right? It's not, and this is the conversation you got to have with your husband. It's not that you don't give me attention on my birthday. It's not that you don't listen to me, right, when the tire was flat. You don't give me enough for me. Now the rubber hits the road. Now you start using I statements when it comes to correcting any behavior from your spouse, man or woman. You have to say things, and this is part of, we're going through the lack nation of the things that people lack, that you have to say, look, I understand that you do listen to me, baby, and that you care for me. I need more. And this is how I need more. Now, here's the deal about that. You might have to say that to your husband 20 times, 30 times, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years. You say, I can't do it. You can. You can. Because you don't muzzle the oxen as you tread out the grain. In other words, that every time you say that, you convince them more and more. And one day you're going to share this with your husband and it's going to click. I'm, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. But it's how you approach the man. It's how you approach and how you stay honest without nagging. And it's always best when we do all these things is to correct B time. B time is in the Bible. Look it up. And that means that you correct immediately. That's how you work with children. That's how you work with any soul. At the moment at offense, you correct. Now, if you can't because the other person is heated, then what you do is say, you know what I'm going to do? The first time we have a calm place, because right now it's too heated. As an adult, you have to say that. You say, I can't really touch him right now in front of these boys. Can't really touch him right now. I have to find out how to come in and out of this man. The Bible said you bless coming in and you bless going out. And so when you have a man, ladies, you have to know how to come in to him or you're going to get your head snapped off because he's in the soul. And so this is work. And the same thing with him. If he come at you with the wrong time, you know, he about to get his head bit off. So we know that's humans. That's human nature, right? So when it comes down to lack of attention, just don't tell your husband, I'm not getting enough. You have to come up with a plan. And you got to say, and that means you got to do some soul searching that says, what am I really lacking? What am I really missing? And then you bring that to your husband. And it doesn't have to be a detailed plan, but it has to be real. And it has to come from your heart. And you got to wholeheartedly believe this is what I want. Now, what you don't want to do is tell your husband that he's lacking in this area. If you do this, I'll be fulfilled. And he does it and you're not fulfilled. You're going to back him off. Can I say it again? You get what I'm saying? You can't tell your husband, I need from you X, Y, Z. And your husband, who's a good man, gives you X, Y, Z. And you still go back to him and you complain. You can't do that. And there's something else too, ladies, you have to watch, right? You have to watch this right here. Is that if you tell your husband, I need X, I need Y, I need Z, and he gives you X and Y and a W, you can't jump on him because he gave you a W when he wasn't giving you X, Y, Z in the first place. So what you have to do is, because we are so sensitive, I'm sorry, we big and strong, we got beards and we got muscles, but we're so sensitive as we try to learn this relationship, and you can see that, and we want to grow. So if I give you X, Y, man, you're going to have to applaud them. You're going to have to applaud them and pat them on the back, and then a W, so you got to work on it. And Joyce told me that I was real good in this one area, and I'm real good in this where, but when it came down to celebrating her birthdays, she said, you ain't doing real good celebrating my birthday. I said, Joyce, you know I don't celebrate birthdays. Yeah, but that's all about me and not about her. So I had to learn how to celebrate her birthday the way she wanted to be celebrated because it was affecting her heart towards me. Lack of Nation, hey everybody, it's a Blank C Van. Welcome to the Happy Husband. Tonight we are dealing with the 5 top things that we can get through them tonight that wives hate, that the husbands do. The number one thing we put up there was lack of attention, and we was talking about that. The second thing on the list is lack of affection. Lack of affection. Now, when I do this Happy Husband thing, we do this marriage counseling, I'm always intrigued with husbands, right? Wives too, but husbands that start off so well. Because the only way you even married them, the only way you went out with them, The only way you went date with them, they were giving you attention and they was giving you affection. But somewhere down the road, they got off course and they got like lazy about these things. That's what we call lack. Lack means that I ain't saying that he doesn't give you affection. I'm saying, and the wives are complaining, you don't give me enough affection. If you agree, put it in the chat. If you agree, if you disagree, put in the chat. And also, if you go to my Facebook page, you also see a link that you can be on the show and me and you can discuss it, man or female. They'll make a difference. And we can discuss these things right here and give me what you got up there. You might have your own top 5. You might have something like, Blaine, these 5 are good, but one of the really big thing is this right there. I can't stand, and we don't want you to talk about your husband, but you could say my ex-husband, right? My ex-husband, when he did these things to me, or you could say my husband right now, we had that talk and it changed my whole marriage, right? It really started us on the road because, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I have experience with my wife, but I'm sure that some of the experience you have with your husband and your wife can help other marriages. And that's what we're here today. We're here to help each other to grow in this thing because of all the things that you do. Marriage is probably the most important thing you can ever do. Better than picking a college or going to work or having children, because marriage is forever, right? And when your marriage is not forever, it devastates lives. It devastates children. A family dissolves and crashes and burns. It's important that we get equipped, and it's important that you think like all the time about marriage and to make it strong and to make sure that you keep it safe from the wicked one. Amen. So the second thing is a lack of affection. Lack of affection. Now, what is affection? Listen, affection is how a person treats me, how a person affects me when they're close. When they're close. Affection leads to intimacy. Lack of affection leads leads to stonewalling and separation. And then you get 2 entities that live in the house, as opposed that the 2 shall become one. The 2 shall become one because of affection. When I get around Joyce, before I married her, she, listen to the words I'm using, she affected me. There was other ladies in the room when I met Joyce. Well, me and Joyce met at the club. Come on, man, we did. It was off night, but I met Joyce at the club, right? And Joyce walked across the dance floor. There was nobody on the dance floor. She had this cute little black hat on and this hat. And that hat, we don't know what happened to that hat. But she had this cute little, she had a V in the back of her dress. She had these little pumps on. And she said, say, across the floor. And I said, my God, my God. That's what I said. I said, now that's my wife. She affected me. And so from that moment on to this day, I give Joyce affection. Now I have to find out the things that I can do that affects her heart towards me. We're talking tonight, y'all. This is good. And so, gentlemen, what affects your wife's heart in a positive way? Is it flowers? Is it cards? Is it just walking with her? Is it just listening to her? Is brushing her hair? You know, some women like that. Is it massaging her scalp? Right? Is it cleaning after yourself? See, because it's not all body. Affection. What are you doing to affect her in a positive way? We already know what you're doing to affect her in a negative way, right? That's why we're going over this list. But you have to ask yourself is that, and here's the question. Listen, here's the question. When I do this thing, whatever it may be, she says, I love you too. Ah, listen what I'm saying. You didn't tell her that you love her. Because you said, babe, I love you. And she's going to repeat back, babe, I love you too. And that's good on a level. because you could be mad at each other. Matter of fact, you might not even like each other. But when you do an act of kindness to your wife and it affects her heart, what is that kindness? And then that kindness that you do a lot of. That kindness that make her look at you with those dreamy eyes. That kindness and that generosity that make her lips swell. See, when you do it right, your wife ain't gonna inject her lips. I don't. Are you hear me today? When a woman injects her lips, that is to simulate orgasm. When a woman have an orgasm and her lips and her nipples swell, and so you inject it, and that's why when men look at women with full lips, they think it's sexy, right? And so you inject it, and your lips swell up because while your husband is above you in the missionary position, and he's looking down on you, and your nipples swell, and your lips swell, he said, "All right, I'm working. I'm doing a good job. I'm doing my business, right?" When you affect a woman's heart, right, and she look at you, right, her lips swell. When you don't affect her heart, what happened to her lips? They get tight and thin. They get tight, like she just sucked a lemon, right? So affection rushes blood through the lips to the face so they don't look all hollow, look like they lost and abandoned. And that affection feeds her spirit man, feeds her soul man, feeds her body. That's what affection does. And so Joyce said, for me to show affection with Joyce, I know what she likes. And so I go ahead and do that constantly. Now, when I first got married, I didn't do it constantly, right? But after a while, I read the book, The Love Language. I read a book, right? And then I constantly go on the internet. I go on Google all the time, and I ask Google questions about marriage. I keep myself in the flow of it, right? Because I want my marriage to last, but I just don't want to last on its dying breath. You, you know what I mean? You see people do a marathon. Some people run across the marathon line and they upright and they got victory, and then other people crawl across it, right? And so I don't want to have crawl across the finish line marriage. I want to have a victorious marriage. And so I study how to be affectionate to Joyce. And men, learn how to be affectionate to, and then name your wife's name. Name your wife's name to Janet, to Sue, to Karen, to Maribel, to Annette, to Lynn. Say your wife's name and then say, I am going to learn how to be affectionate, and then name your wife. It's not that you're not doing it. Remember, that's the revelation tonight, is that you're not doing it enough. All right? So let's keep in mind. So that was number 2. The first one was attention. The second was affection. Hi, everybody. I'm Blaine C. Van. I'm the happy husband. We meet here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. We talk about marriage. Now, next week is going to be crazy. I got a guest coming in, Matt Wilson from, let me make sure I didn't right, Awakening Family Center. He's a therapist, and he deals with a lot of things in family. He's going to be my guest next week. You do not want to miss it, because one of his passions is to help men deal with pornography. And so his client, he said 50% of his clients, right, are men and women, and then the other 50% are men that are dealing with a sexual addiction. You do not want to miss it. Tell your friends. Tell your friends, because this man got insight. He works with men like this on a daily basis. And I grew up with addiction. I know my friends grew up with addiction. I know men who are addicted now do something. Cigarettes, pornography, gambling, and being addicted. I mean, you could just change the title, but addiction is addiction. And I got free. I got free from addiction. And so thank God I didn't, the Lord did it. But I'm just saying is that next Tuesday, 6 p.m., tell the world. Tell the world. Because the numbers of men who are addicted to pornography and how it is killing relationships, killing marriages. I mean, it's slaughtering marriages. And that men are so addicted to pornography that men 30, 35, 36 are taking the blue pill because they are hypersexualized. They hypersexualize so that when they meet a normal woman with a normal appetite, and you said, well, what's normal? If the normal appetite for her is the things she want to do, and the normal appetite for her the things she don't want to do. That's normal. And then he wants to hypersexualize his wife and have her act just like they sex trafficking, but the holes in the video. And that's ruining marriages. And we're going to be talking about that next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Be here or be square. The third thing that there's a lack of in marriages, right, is the lack of emotional energy, right? And so there's a lot of talk going around about emotional intelligence, but most of the talk that you see on social media has to do with singles. A lot of singles talk about emotional energy, and they right and wrong at the same thing, because I believe that there's only so much emotional energy you should give somebody who's not your wife. There's only so much emotional energy you need to give somebody who's not your husband. And, this relationship that we got, this dating thing that you want, and how the person has to be fully invested with no ring, and you say, well, Blaine, you're just old fashioned. No, I just know that giving your whole self to a man who haven't promised himself to you, who haven't promised he's going to protect you, haven't promised he's going to watch over you, haven't promised to you that he's going to be faithful, haven't promised that he wants you in his life in the future, that he hasn't promised, like none of these things, don't give your whole heart to him. But in a marriage relationship, and that's why I deal with marriage, right? That you two already came into a covenant agreement. Y'all stood down the aisle, or you're justice of the peace. You declared before the witness underneath the heavens, whether you believe in God or not, but you declared in an open forum that this is my wife. And you said, this is my husband. That on that basis of that, you sow into the marriage your emotional love, your emotional intelligence, right? And I would say this is necessarily in order, but one of the things that wives are saying that the husbands are doing, the husband, you can relate and say that, is that somewhere along the line, the husband cut off the emotional servanthood. They cut off the emotional commitment, and they're just going through the motions. And that the husband doesn't, and I want you to listen to the word, I want you to write this down because I want you to pray over it, right? Reciprocate. Reciprocate. That the wives expend emotional energy to her husband, and he does not reciprocate like he used to. And that's why we call it lack of emotional energy, because we're not saying he's not giving you emotional energy. And that's where I'm telling you the argument lies. So baby, I ain't saying that you don't love me. I'm saying that you're not loving me enough for me. You're not giving me your emotions. And look, and it's just not love. Humans have a variety of emotions. We have anger, we have laughter, we have love, we have concern, we have anxiety, we have stress. All these things are emotional that we have as human. Men and female have it. It's just when your wife comes to you, sir, and she's talking about something that is a great concern for her, and you show no empathy, or you like a cold blanket. But it even get worse than this, that wives are complaining that the husbands are distant, that they are distant from them. That when they first was honeymooning and he was courting her, he showed all these emotional, he told about his day, he told about his stresses, and then something happened in the marriage. And I think it was quick. I think I call it erosion, right? That's the word I use when I think about marriages that dissolves. I use a word like erosion and dissolves. And that the husband, the man, was sharing his day, and then he stopped, slowly by slowly. And then I have seen, and it might be you out there, I have seen people at the restaurant eating, the man over here, the woman over here, and they don't say a word to each other. Not a word, excuse me, not a word to each other. You bring concern about the kids, and he's distant. You bring concern, excuse me, you bring concern about you, and he's distant. And this, and it's like you're in the same room, but he's down this long corridor, and it's like he's like way back here. And wives hate that because women are emotional creatures. Amen. Maybe some are too much, but some are too little, but most of them are emotional creatures, and they need another human to bounce off the ideals and the emotions to say, baby, you're right. They did you wrong at the store. Let's go down. Or saying, baby, that's just normal business. That's just how business is run. And so don't get your work up for that. It's no big deal. I pay for it. Don't you worry about it. And so you need another human, and hopefully men and women, because both men and women are different, that you can bounce off your emotional state, and that the other person, male or female, wife or husband, is the common force of the inner turmoil. Your mother's sick, is raging inside. That lady at work, see them stab you, is raging inside. Your teenage daughter curse you out and went in her room, and you want to kill, and you raging inside. You need a sounding board. All humans need somebody to take the blunt of the storm, to take the blunt of it, take it, and like Jesus, stand on the boat and say, peace be still. See, that's what head of household does. And people who don't have that, male, female, they are stressed out. But God made it so that, put it this way, it's not good that man be alone. It's not good that man be alone. And also, the Holy Book says that it's two together, and God put them two by two, that if one falls, the other one is there to pick them up. When a woman or wife feel tilted, when her world is bombarded by demonic attacks and things of nature, and floods and hurricanes, who is her anchor? It is Jesus, but the man is Jesus in the flesh, if you can understand what I'm saying. Not a capital J, little j. And that he's supposed to represent the kingdom of God, and he's supposed to be the anchor. When a wife reach out to a man to wrestle her storm, and he's not there for it, whether he's not equipped or he don't know what to do, that the woman says, I can do this by myself. I can rage by myself. I can tear up by myself. Earlier today, I tell you that I was reading on my social media page, and I belong to several marriages club, that he said that his wife threw furniture. And I wonder about that. Did he calm her? Was he an anchor for his storm? was she able to 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 bombard him with an emotional tirade? He absorbed that thing, man. Come on back and said, "Baby, I got you. I got you. I got you in this situation." That's what husbands are there for. Husbands are there for because it's because there's areas in our life that we all have emotional outbursts. I know that when I come home sometime, I'm so sick and tired of work, and my wife calms me down. Because if not, you're gonna quit your job, and that's foolish. I know this one lady backstabbed her in the back, and so she quit the next day. Now she found another job, but for 3 weeks, almost a month, she went through financial hardship, all because she didn't have anybody to bounce off the anger and the rage. So that was three. First thing was attention. Second thing was affliction. The third thing was emotional energy. The fourth one, what I think is really good, and I write this down, is lack of respect. Lack of respect. Women don't like this because one, out of everybody in the world, her husband should be the one that respects us the most. They said the most disrespected person, and I got no statistic, I just heard it, are single black women with children. The most disrespected, poorest entity on the planet because our family structure in America is just so tore up. And not because you're a single mother, it's because they did, and we know we ain't gonna talk about who they is, but you know, they did a good job of removing the father from the family unit and brought so much stress on it that it just broken in so many pieces. So when it comes down to respecting somebody, speculation, specking out somebody, seeing somebody, regarding somebody with honor, right? When you respect somebody, you respect them over and over again. You just don't respect them in one position, but you keep the honor and the value of that person high and lifted up. Not like a God, but you respect. You know, me and my wife have been married 36 years. I mean, I can give you an example. We've been married 36 years, and I still say please. I still say thank you. We didn't talk about that. Me and my wife never sat down and said, you know, when you ask for something, say thank you. Now, I do remember one time she said, say thank you, but she was in a mood. Or it could have been me, right? It could have been me. But 99% of the time, Joyce, make me dinner. Thank you, baby. That's sure real good meatloaf. Thank you, baby. Appreciate that. Joyce, can you hand me that cup of water? Sure do appreciate you, baby. Because I respect her. See, when I'm doing that, it's not attention. It's not even affection, right? And in a way, like I describe affection. But respect is that I respect her position as a woman. I respect her intelligence. I respect how she thinks. Joyce is a value partner to me, right? Now, I think my respect for her has grew over time, right? And for sure, because Joyce told me there have been times that I had dissed her. She told me that. She didn't like that. And I didn't like how that made her feel because I love my wife. And so I tried my best at that time to do good. And then Joyce just tell me, no, you ain't doing a good job. You're not doing a good job. And I got tired of her telling me I wasn't doing a good job. You see, guys, I grew. I grew. And so now, when I said that to respect your woman will keep your marriage because nobody else is respecting her. The only person who might respect her, who want alternative motives, is some man out there who want to go to bed with your wife. So he's gonna bring the high respect. Now I'm not saying her boss doesn't, right? But she shouldn't be getting more respect from a daggone boss than from her own husband. That don't make any sense, right? So make sure that you respect your wife. Make sure you honor your wife. Make sure that she feels your respect. Even when you disagree. See, and that's when the chickens come home, right? You don't curse at your wife. You don't belittle your wife. You don't talk about your wife badly in front of strangers. You don't let other people in on your marriage. You don't talk about your marriage in a negative way to no one, right? Unless you both agree that you're going to go to a family therapist and you both agree with mutual consent that you're going to be transparent in the sessions. But before that, do not talk to anybody about your marriage, and the inner workings of your marriage is nobody's business. Not your mama, not your daddy, not your children. It's nobody's business. Respect your wife, respect her privacy, respect the way she share her ideals with you. Be a husband who has a closed mouth. Be a husband who's not a blabbermouth, telling all your business in the street. Or you know me, I'm a social butterfly, and I'm on the internet, but I do not talk about my wife except in a favorable light on social media. I will never ever talk negative about my wife to anybody because there ain't nobody business. It's nobody business, right? If I and I really talk to her next to God about her, really, because I watch out for witchcraft prayers. Because a lot of times when it comes down to arguments and disagreements, both persons are involved. It is rarely one-sided, right? And so if I complain about her, and you know what they say, when you point your finger, you got one pointing at the person, but you got three pointing back at yourself. And so I just found out through 36 years of marriage that it's not a good thing. Now, before we close, this one made it to my list after the more I thought about it and meditate on it, the more I thought about marriages, the more I thought about why marriages get divorced. Um, and this one I got here when I did my survey, that there was about 30 things, right? 30 things a wife say they hate their husband do. But this one is about five or six of them all squeezed up to one. And after meditated is this one. And here it is. To me, the number one thing that women hate, even though you probably never heard a woman say it, and this is this: lack of responsibility. Remember, we did a definition what the word lack means. Lack means not enough responsibility. That there are areas that a husband that you doing that you take responsible for. Like for instance, you might take responsibility for the grass, or you might take responsibility or make sure the car in tip-top condition. But I want to say this, gentlemen, from A to Z, that this men who do from A, which we say is the worst case scenario, to Z, but rarely have I found a man to take responsibility for the whole alphabet. And the reason why, I believe there's a couple of reasons, right? The first negative one is that men are lazy. Men are extremely lazy. Men have not been taught how to work. Men have not been taught with responsibility. Because when we grew up, the people, our elders, divided up the house into male and female responsibilities. They said the male take care of this and the female take care of that. Well, I'm finding out that that's a lackluster marriage. I'm telling you why. As head of household, as a man, you need to take responsibility for the whole house, not part of the house. Because when the part of a house go lacking, what you gonna do? Blame your wife? And the answer is yes, men do. They blame their wives and they go get another wife. They blame the wives on their stone wall. They blame their wives, and they get into the feelings, and they get negative. And I believe this is a revelation by the Lord for marriages, is that men need to take responsibility for the whole house. But because men have been taught the kingdom of God principles, they have been taught the principles of God of delegated authority. You see, you're the president, but then you got governors, and you delegate the operation of the state to the governor. But when there's a crisis in that state, the governor goes to who? Well, it goes to the president, because the president is responsible. Now we understand that we got laws, we got senates, and we got the House of Representatives. But you understand what I'm saying? The principle of it, the heavenly principle is that God is responsible. Now, he delegated authority to the Holy Ghost and to Jesus, but the Father is responsible for all. Oh, hear Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. And so he's responsible for all, but then he delegates systems, and this, might be a little heavy. He delegates systems in the earth to take care of the earth. Like, for instance, he delegated gravity, delegated centrifugal force. He delegated systems in the earth, but it was him who spoke into existence, and it is to him that answer to. That's why God put in systems like the weather. The weather is a system in its principle that he used to take water, remove the salt, move it over the plains of the United States, and drop it on crops. It'll cost us a dime. There's no pipes. If you think about it, what most folks don't, that he could take water over here, use the system of evaporation, then he used the wind to carry it with the uneven heating of the earth's surface, and go over in Kansas and drop it on some corn, right? God put that systems in, but God is over the systems. The systems are not equal to God. And when the systems don't act right or get thrown out, you can call on the maker of the systems so that the systems act right. Elijah was a man just like me and you. And he looked up to the plains and he saw the clouds the size of a man's hand. And he prayed again. And they say that Elijah spoke, and then it rained for 3 years. And then when he did speak, it rained for three more years. What I'm saying is that God put systems in the earth. So to be a godly man, to do it God's way, you need to be responsible for your whole household. And then, as the man of God in place, you delegate authority, but you delegate authority with wise counsel to your wife. You can give her, don't give your wife something hard to do that she's not good. Let's say your wife can't cook. And traditionally, women cook in the household. And let's say she can make a meal, but she really can't cook. Well, do you hate on her, or do you cook? If you can't cook and she can't cook, well, then you need to hire somebody to cook. You say, well, I don't make enough money. Well, then you better pray to God that you make enough money so you can cook. That's what I'm saying. I said, and that's how you incorporate this into your life. So responsibility. Women talk about lazy men. Women talk about, and I got to say that, there's a lot of household when you got a 19-year-old who ain't got no job, 23-year-old got no job, 33-year-old don't have no job, sitting in her mama's house. What type of husband do you think going to make? And here he is, dressing fine because she's buying his clothes. He got his Jordans on. He got his little jeans on. Got a nice little jacket. He just went from the barber shop. He got a sweet fade, man. Got a little drip. Got a little drip on him. He's out there hanging in the street. He's at the club. You see a young lady go by. You looking at him. He looked fine from the outside. And so he started talking to you. He got game, right? He got game. So he giving you a little game. He tell her how attractive you are. Tell her how your eyes look nice. They look nice in your jeans. And he's giving you affection. And he's giving you attention. And he's giving you emotional energy. Y'all feel what I'm saying? He's doing all these things. But when it comes down, when you hook up and you get a partner together, that lazy butt, he ain't working. He ain't taking his part. He's not cleaning after himself. He's eating, leaving dishes all place. Got roaches coming in. And so you see why I believe the number one reason, even though women don't say it, is that the husbands are not responsible for all, and women feel the weight of child rearing. They feel the weight of doing it themselves. And then the man sneaks out of the house. Let me tell you what I mean by sneak out the house and go to work. You said, Blaine, I think you call him lazy. But some men who don't want to take responsibility, work overtime so they do not have to be in the home. Believe this. Believe this. And then they travel a lot and leave the wives rearing the children. Then he comes on the weekend and try to dictate authority, and they just have to get the house all chaotic, and he leaves again, and it comes a point when she said, I wish he never come back into the home because he's not responsible. You say, yeah, but you married him. You knew he was a truck driver. Oh, no, you married him. You knew he was a lawyer. Oh, no, you married him. You knew he was a doctor. You knew the job he had took him away. And then you say, yeah, but I was 19. I was 20. I didn't have any children. And they said, well, you should have known. You should have known. No, somewhere there was a disconnect. And because the men are not taking responsibility of the household, they leave his household. And let me tell you what happened to me. Do you don't think, do I got time? Nope, I ain't got time. That's for another time. I got all fired up. You see why I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about men being men. I'm passionate. I'm passionate about single moms raising men. I'm passionate about this. And that the key to a successful marriage is a man who doesn't lack in taking responsibility, but takes the whole gamut and brings it to his bosom and looks his wife in the eye and say, baby, I'm going to take care of it. I got it. I got you. I got your children. I got the household. But we're doing it together. In the areas I might not have it together, we're going to talk it out. We're going to work it out. And we're going to bring the two minds together so the two should be in one flesh. Hi, I'm Blaine Van. I'm the happy husband. God bless you tonight. Appreciate you. I want to thank you for this being in my life and just want to have a better marriage is blessing me. I hope you took good notes. Remember, we'll be here next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Please put your comments down. I like to engage with you. I like to hear your thoughts on the night. What do you think about it? Did you like it? You didn't like it? There's some parts you agree with, some parts you didn't. Can you bring more insight? Other people, marriages would do good with you being transparent and revealing things about your marriage. Also, like I say, watch for me in the Washington, D.C. area. Come over there with some workshops. And I'll be starting a marriage club on Facebook pretty soon. So make sure that you join and let's save marriages. Amen. Starting with our own. God bless. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.